So the second skill that is really important for new supervisors, any supervisor really, is time management. Your goal is really to have no wasted time in your team members, no idle time. So, and in fact, this is one of the most critical skills. Time management is really one of the most critical skills for supervisors. And the what's critical about it is that a good supervisor will first want to prioritize activities that are done within that group, that department, whatever it is that we're supervising. One of the best exercises, by the way, that I ever came across was from Stephen Covey. And I'm not sure if he actually created it. That was the first place that I kind of saw this. But his advice was to divide a piece of paper into 4 equal quadrants. In the first quadrant, you would write down things that are both important and urgent. And then in the second quadrant, you would write down things that you do that are important, but not yet urgent. So quadrant number 1, things that they're really, really important and they're urgent. We have to do them right now. These are important things that have to be done right now. In quadrant 2, those are things that are also important, but they haven't yet gotten to the point where they're urgent yet, right? And so those would be things that we would plan for. And then the third quadrant, you would write down things that are urgent. They're things that we have to do right now, but they're not really important. And so a lot of times these are kind of wasted time things. And then finally, in the last quadrant, you would write down things that are neither important nor urgent. They're not urgent and they're not important at all, but a lot of times those are things that we tend to get bogged down in. So when you create your chart, by the way, spend some time listing the tasks and the jobs that you or the people on your team do each day, and then place them in the correct quadrant on the chart. You'll be shocked, by the way, at how many of your activities fall into that quadrant for the last quadrant. And when you find those activities, those are things that you want to absolutely stop doing. You don't want to be doing those things in that quadrant at all. And those quadrant 4 activities, by the way, they would include things like scrolling through social media or chatting with coworkers, that kind of thing. Now, I'm not saying those things aren't important. I'm just saying that a lot of times we will use those as distractions. We'll come up with a good idea and then we'll pop into a coworker's office, interrupt the coworker, and get off topic. So instead of just relaying the idea to the coworker, now we start chatting about everything under the sun, and now we've wasted 22 minutes, right? That's the kind of stuff that we really want to avoid as a supervisor. Keep our team motivated and on the right track. The third quadrant, by the way, would include things like that should be minimized, really, or avoided. For instance, I just on my own cell phone, I used to have news alerts. I still do, by the way, but I just don't look at them as often. But I used to have these news alerts that would appear on my phone, and the news alert, when the feed would alert my phone, it would create an alarm. It was identical to the message alarms from my clients. So when I would hear the alert, I'd stop what I was doing. Even if it was something really, really important, urgent, I would immediately go and look at my phone to see what the alert was about. And at the time, by the way, it seemed urgent because there was an alarm attached to it. However, really the thing that was being alerted to me wasn't really important at all. It would be a headline that didn't apply to me, didn't apply to my business, but I would take time out of my day to go and look at it. So one of the things that I did was I just kind of changed the alarms on my phone to make it to where I'm only getting, especially during the business day, I'm only getting distracted by things that are urgent and important, and it really helps. So once you've identified these items that are in quadrants 1 and 2, especially, really all 4 quadrants, but the ones that are in 1 and 2, those are the things that you want to schedule with your team. You want to start with the quadrant 1 items because those are the things that have to be done right now. They're urgent, and they're things that are important to the success of our group. And then for the quadrant 2 items, we want to plan and organize and strategize on the things that are in quadrant 2, because we want to make sure that those things get done before they become urgent. So those would be the things that, hey, once these urgent projects are done, we're going to spend some time organizing the quadrant 2 things to make sure that they never become urgent. So that reduces the stress, increases morale, and it makes it a whole lot easier. And then the last thing that I would suggest people do is identify the triggers for the not important but urgent items, and then just eliminate them, kind of like I did with my phone feeds. Those triggers, those things that are triggering that item to become urgent, if you can eliminate the triggers, a lot of times you can save some time and make yourself more efficient and make your team members more efficient as well. So anyway, so those would be the things that I would kind of suggest to kind of really help you get better organizational skills with your team. If you do those things, you're going to increase productivity pretty dramatically, also reduce stress and and increase morale at the same time. So lots of good benefits for doing those things.